podcast about all things NASCAR and sim racing. Join your hosts, Elliott, John, Mike, Matt, and Rick to review this weekend at the track.
Each week, they tackle events trackside, news, and of course, the rumor mill. Stay up to date each week by subscribing to The High Line. Brought to you by the iRacing Warrior Network.
So without further delay, move up to the High Line.
All right, welcome to the High Line. This is our 7th episode in our first series here. The High Line podcast is brought to you by the IWM Racing Network, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. So just to say hello, my name is Rick Susan. I'm joined here by the rest of the IWM admin folks. Guys?
I'm Elliott.
I'm Michael.
I'm John.
All right, we don't have a guest for you, so you have us. So we'll do our best to keep you entertained for the next 45 minutes to an hour. But there was a lot of racing going on, and I guess we can start out with our own series. That's the Tech4Troops Cup Series, our 3rd season, and we just had our 6th race of the season at Texas Motor Speedway. So we had 30 entries, 11 teams competing for a championship in our race results.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Aramis do what Aramis does, get out front, drop to the back, and then make his way back up to the front late in the race. And with Ryan Pittman there in second and Luke Bullard in third, you're kind of starting to see the cream of the crop rise to the top. Luke Bullard is a name to pay attention to, but also pay attention to Ryan Pittman there. But Aramis gets his win on the season. This season's a lot different than last, guys, because we had Joey Doucette absolutely just takes a stranglehold on the beginning of the season. And then Aramis started to get some wins down, but I think we've had 6 different winners this season so far.
Yeah, it's been a really diverse field at this point. And I think you hit the nail on the head with talking about the cream of the crop rising to the top here. Luke Bullard has been a very consistent guy. Some of the guys on his team has been pretty consistent as well. Aramis does what he does. I mean, I think this style racing, these kind of tracks fit him perfectly.
Yeah, his history precedes him. Is that the way you say that? I think I said that wrong, but we give Aramis a lot of credit. He wasn't racing with us the first season, joined last season, and I believe he has 9 wins. This was the first one this year. It took him 6 races to get there, but he has 9 wins, which is almost double second place. So we expect a lot from him, and yeah, he, as we've said in the past, he kind of rides around 10th or 15th and waits till the end of the race and has this amazing knack for saving his tires and running the high line. And I even, in race control with Michael, I even said with 20 laps to go, he was in 4th. And probably the wrong way to say it, but I said, gosh, I'm not real comfortable with where Aramis is at. He's in 4th. And I was really talking about the 3 guys that were in front of him, realizing that there he was with 20 laps to go in 4th. And sure enough, I believe with 13 to go, it's just like he hit another gear that they didn't have and just went from 4th to 1st and left them behind.
Yeah, it was we sat there in the broadcast booth as we watched him creep up and make his way towards the front. Here we go again. This is Aramis and how he approaches a race. So yeah, it was cool to watch. All right, on to our second segment, and that's This Week in Racing, and we saw a lot of action. Starting out first with the F1 race in Barcelona for the Spanish Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's Formula One's turned into a 2-horse race between 2 bulls. You have Sergio and Max is just unstoppable at this point. That car is so dialed in no matter where they go that it's not even close in the driver standings. When you take a look at the difference between first and second, it's a difference of 53 points. So it's 170 points to Max and 117 points to Perez. And then you have Fernando in third with 99 points. So you have Max almost 100 points ahead of the closest other non-Red Bull car. And, this poses a question. Mike, we were talking about this before the podcast. Are people getting tired of seeing one car, one driver win? I mean, if you're a Max fan, could you be in that same boat? I mean, he just put an absolute stranglehold on the field, and I don't think anybody can compete with him right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's definitely nobody that can compete with Verstappen right now. I mean, that car is just absolutely hooked up, and it's not just the car. I mean, the car is obviously head and shoulders above everybody else, but Verstappen is just whipping the field right now. It was good to see Mercedes kind of get back in the fold. I think they had a 2-3 finish after some car changes to see maybe creeped them a little bit closer, but I think they were still 20 seconds behind the race winner Verstappen. So it was it's fun to see Mercedes come back, but it's still not even a race at all.
Well, you mentioned it's a 2-horse team, Sergio and Max. I know Sergio started somewhere in the middle of the field. I honestly don't know where he finished because I didn't finish the race. Like I've said 1,000 times now, it seems like it was a race to turn one between Sainz and Verstappen, and Verstappen won that race to turn one, and so he won the race. I think it's a shame because the cars are just great. They're cool as can be. You know the drivers are good. But for me, the on-track product just I guess the best word I could use is it's boring.
Yeah, F1 here in the United States, F1 has really, the Europeans are always going to love F1 racing. That's just their bread and butter. It is what it is. F1 really gained a lot of traction during the pandemic with Drive to Survive. Me, for one, I always used to kind of, glance at F1 a little bit, but when during the pandemic and that show came out, I really got hooked on F1. And now that the world is back to normal, yeah, I still think it's pretty cool. The cars are really cool. The technology is great. The personalities are good. But it's like you said, the racing is horrible.
Yeah, and we'll see, kind of what happens as the racing goes on. I read some stat the other day that I believe Verstappen has won 15 out of the last 21 Grand Prix. I may be completely off on that, but I believe that is the actual stat there. And, looking back at some other notable, seasons that this has happened, Max has the most race wins in a Formula One season last year with 15. Schumacher had 13 wins in 2004. Vettel had 13 wins in a Red Bull in 2013. So it's not uncharacteristic for this to happen, but you've seen Red Bull, with Vettel have 13 wins in 2013. You had Verstappen with 15 wins in 2022. The other closest one would be when Lewis Hamilton went on that amazing streak of championships and had 11 wins in 2018, 2019, and 2020. So it's definitely somewhat typical in the modern era of Formula One, but got to say it makes for a very boring race.
It's interesting that you mentioned Michael Schumacher's dominance in the 90s, and it's ironic that I'm kind of hating on this dominance by Verstappen now, and to me how boring it is, because when Schumacher was winning all those races is when I started watching F1 and started liking it. I guess that just comes with age. Things change. But I have a question, and this is going to sound like a really stupid question, and that's okay. That's why I'm going to ask it. I've watched about half the race, so I got to see quite a few pit stops. And I know their pit stops are always quick, 2.5 seconds, 2.6, 3 seconds. But I watched and watched and watched. And my question is, do they ever put gas in these things? I could not see anybody ever fueling one of them.
No. So in modern Formula One racing, they do not. Due to multiple reasons, but it actually adds extra weight to the car when you add extra gas. So
I read that they have 30-gallon tanks, and that they get about 7 miles a gallon. So are they generally? I guess it's probably different with every track, but this race was 66 laps long. Now I don't know how big the track was right offhand. But are they pretty much starting with a full tank then, I guess?
Well, the F1 cars are partly hybrid now, right?
Yep, that is true. Yeah, so they have a recharge as well, so you can recharge the battery alongside the fuel. So it's a mix of both, yes, but they fill it up to race trim, and I don't believe they fill it up all the way, because you have race fuel amounts and you have qualifying fuel amounts and practice fuel amounts. But yeah, you will never in modern Formula One ever see them fill up a car.
Do we know? Did I read bad info? Do they have 30-gallon tanks, or do we know if that's the case or not anymore?
So the Formula One gas tank size is 30 gallons.
Okay.
So yes, that is correct.
What do you have to say there, Rick?
No, I was just going to say that for good reason. I mean, the less opportunity for combustible material with their super hot engines, and a mistake that could happen would be disastrous because the pit location is so close to not only the crew that surrounds the car, but the support staff is right there. And
Correct.
a mistake would be disastrous for not only that team, but the other teams that are in the next bay over. So,
Well, so this I just pulled up something that says back in 2022, it says the rules and regulations in Formula One racing do not allow the cars to refuel between the race. The FIA decided to ban the refueling process from enhancing the crew's safety, like what you were saying, Rick, and reducing costs. Even though the teams require clever strategies and tactics, yada, 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 manage refueling, it's just purely safety. Because we've seen even in NASCAR where a fuel cell or some fuel falls out of the tank, that concrete or the asphalt is hot, that tire hits it and boom, it goes up in flames. So it has happened before in Formula One too, and a lot of times actually.
Well, we can move on, but I'm really intrigued. I didn't realize that they were hybrid motors, hybrid systems, and those are complicated systems. But even from the layman's terms, it's relatively, as long as they're mild hybrids, which I have no idea. I'd like to talk about that in the future, about how their hybrid systems work, and if maybe other series, i.e. NASCAR, might go that way at some point.
Sounds like a podcast topic.
yeah, we'll see if we can get Verstappen on, and as a guest, he can fill us in. So
There we go.
You work on that, Rick.
I'll work on that. Yeah, there we go. All right, on to NASCAR. This week's recap. We had action at both the World Wide Technology Raceway in Illinois, as well as in Portland for a road course for the Xfinity drivers. We'll cover Xfinity first. That was the Pacific Office Automation 147 at Portland. Sheldon Creed was on the pole. It was a wild race. There was lots of action going on, multiple overtime challenges and restarts. Parker Kligerman attempted a 3-wide pass for the lead in overtime that allowed Cole Custer to win from the third row on the restart in overtime. Allgaier was behind. He could not close the gap. There was a scuffle between Jeb Burton and Chandler Smith, and also a lot of on-track action between John Hunter Nemechek and Sheldon Creed.
I thought it was a great race, but right off the bat, did you guys see if they missed turn one, the little zigzag between the signs they had to do? It was kind of funny trying to watch a couple guys do that whenever they missed turn one.
I did not watch the race.
I watched it. Sheldon Creed, well, you cut out what you want there. But yeah, Sheldon Creed ran up front a lot. Parker Kligerman made that last 3-wide attempt, like you said. That was going into turn one. But the interesting thing about turn one is they had set up these, I'm sure they got a specific name for them, but long, slender, V-shaped signs, and they had 3 of them. And instead of the rule being if you missed turn one, you had to stop. They didn't have that rule this year. What you had to do was zigzag through these signs that they had. And I don't know if I want to say it worked or not, but a lot of guys had trouble getting through them. A couple of guys hit them. A couple of guys got through them great. Like towards the end, I think it might have been the Parker Kligerman 3-wide attempt at the end. He got into a couple guys, and they were running up front, and they went through the signs and came out in like 6th. They didn't lose a whole lot. But it was a really good race. There was a lot of action on the track. It was close action the whole time. There were some get-togethers with some of the cars, but it ended up being a great race. And right now, who won is leaving my mind. Who won the race?
Cole Custer.
Cole Custer won the race. Yeah.
So what? So did anybody see the incident with Burton and Smith?
Yeah, I saw it. Sorry, I was clicking there, but yeah, I saw it. It looked like those two are battling pretty hard. Looks like the last couple laps, and then Chandler Smith, he definitely roughed Burton up pretty good. It looked like hard racing there at first, and then I think he just got frustrated and couldn't get the spot, and he tried to send him once and didn't do it. And I think he ended up trying to send him 3 times before he finally did. And Burton had every right to be pissed off, but it was it was pretty rough.
Yeah, the first video that I saw online was of the rather large Chandler Smith colleague racing crewman had Jeb in a headlock, and I think it was Chris Rice that was trying to get him to let go, and he did. And then Chris talked to Jeb for just a couple seconds. But if you want to look online, you can find a picture during that section, either where I think it's where the guy's got him in the headlock. You can see Matt Colleague standing in the background. It looks like he's standing on the pit wall. He may just be standing by it with his arms crossed like a mob boss, just watching what's going on.
Well, I stood next to Matt Colleague on pit road at Bristol. I promise you, neither one of those two guys want a piece of that dude. He's a big dude.
Yeah, he was just watching, and then of course you get the reactions later, and Chandler just kind of tried to blow it off, and Jeb was being Mr. Tough Guy, and even posted on Facebook that he let his hands do the talking and all that kind of stuff. And Chandler and Colleague Racing, I guess, put a little video thing together. Kind of making fun of that statement.
That video was hilarious.
Yeah, it's good. He definitely swung at Chandler, but I'm not sure how well he connected.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
All right, on to the Cup Series event. And actually, Cups and Truck both ran at World Wide Technology Raceway. Kyle Busch was on the pole, and Kyle Busch stayed and held off Denny Hamlin to win a chaotic, caution-filled event. 11 cautions, a lot by equipment failures, specifically brake rotors. 5 restarts over the last 40 laps to close out the event.
Yeah, with these brake rotors, I know it was a hot day. They made the drivers wear fireproof underwear. They made them wear all the head socks because it was so hot. It's just something's got to be done. I mean, ever since this car has been introduced, whether it's been the fire in the cockpit, whether it's been what happened with Kurt Busch, whether it's been Kyle Larson with the sidebar of the car completely bending, now the brake rotor's exploding. I mean, they're lucky somebody didn't get hurt in one of those hits.
I mean, that hit that you saw Noah Gragson take could have been vicious.
That was a vicious hit. I mean, he hit hard. I'm with you, John. I mean, there's just so much going on with this car. It's like, it just seems like it's one thing after another that's going on safety related to the car. It's frustrating because, the car puts on good races sometimes, and then they get marred by part failures that are, it doesn't sound like, and maybe you guys can enlighten me a little bit, it doesn't sound like this would be at fault of anybody of the teams because this is a single source part as well. They can't modify this part. Am I right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
I think the problem is it's a 1.25 mile track, so there's very little cool off time between when you're on the brakes through a very shallow radius turns 1 and 2. And then on the backstretch, then you're back on the brakes to get into 3 and 4. And then couple that with a hot day, maybe not a lot of air movement, a lot of electrical issues, turning brake fans on, brake fans off. There was just, it all led to a perfect storm where there were, brakes just breaking down because of heat.
During the broadcast, they made it a point a couple times, not to contradict you, Rick, to say that it was the heat cycle and the size of the track, combined with the type of steel and all that stuff, they're hard on the brakes in turns 1 and turn 3, and heat the brake rotors up real hot, and that the straightaways were so long that the steel was actually cooling down a lot more than it could handle, a lot more than normal, we'll just say. and then going into turn 3, get on the brakes and heat them back up, and that those heat cycles over and over and over were causing the failures that we saw.
Yeah, but you'd have the same problem at Martinsville.
Well, they pointed out at Martinsville that they don't the brake
straights
rotors
aren't as long, right?
That the brake rotors just stay hot the whole time, that they don't go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold.
Interesting.
And
when we went to Bristol, I got the day before you guys got there, I got to go inside the deal on pit road and go through like the Cup garage and all that kind of stuff. And I actually stuck my hands through the wheel of Tyler Reddick's car and put my hands on those brake rotors. They are humongous. I'm blown away that car could possibly have a brake failure with as beefy and as heavy duty as those brakes are in that car. They're 3 times the size of the old car.
Yeah, this would be the type of steel they're using. The size of the brake rotor is going to help you stop the car. More surface area between pad and rotor stops the car quicker. This was just whatever type of steel they're using couldn't handle this racetrack for whatever reason.
Yeah, but with that size rotor, they should be able to dissipate heat better. And unfortunately, I guess they're saying that the steel, the composite, or the whatever that alloy was not rated for that type of heat on, heat off dissipation. Interesting.
Something was wrong, that's for sure. You guys mentioned people getting hurt, and we've talked about Noah Gragson, but obviously I'm sure you guys all saw the fan that got hit by, luckily not a very big piece, I guess, because it hit him right in the chest.
Yeah, I'm glad he had some liquid medication. It looked like that would have hurt. That would have hurt a lot worse.
Yeah, he posted that on Twitter, and Noah responded to him and basically said, "Hey, we'll make this right. I'll send you something." Basically, and I don't know if you guys saw, the guy responded back to Noah and basically said, "It's all good. You don't need to send me nothing. I'm good. I just wanted to show you." I don't know what the conversation's been since then. I'd have to go look, but Noah offered to, maybe send him something for his trouble.
So this was an important weekend for Corey LaJoie, getting an opportunity to start in the 9 car. How'd that go?
For him, not well, but it really didn't go well for the entire Hendrick organization. I'm pretty sure that Alex finished out of the top 10. I think Byron finished in the top 10. And it didn't look good for Corey, but I would give him a pass. I don't know how everybody else feels about it. The car wasn't the whole team's cars, except for I guess maybe Byron, didn't look good, and Corey couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah, Rick and I talked about it a little bit before we got on here, and it's tough for a guy to come in on a one-off with no practice, new team, new car. Sure, it's a Hendrick car, but like you said, the whole stable was off. Even Byron up until the end of the race, he was there, but he wasn't the typical 24 car that we see. What hurt more than anything, LaJoie's deal was, up until the brake failure on Hocevar's car, he got outrun in his own car, sitting in a Hendrick car. That's the part that's tough to take.
Well, it's just a bad look. Obviously, their team was going to perform. They've been performing well all year, and they were going to perform well again this weekend. And Carson was showing that, and just bad timing, in my opinion, for Corey.
Yeah,
this.
I agree. And go ahead, Rick.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's definitely a bad look, but I don't think it's going to be a bad look for too long, because it's not like y'all were saying. It's not just the 9 car that was off. All the Hendrick cars were off for a period of time. Larson was back in 30th, I think 32nd at one point in the race. So it really didn't look good. But what it did look good was Hocevar outside of the brake failure. He was having a fantastic day. So this poses a question. Do you think Hocevar is good enough to have a Cup ride?
If he's got the money, he's definitely good enough. He showed a lot. I was impressed by his performance for sure.
It's interesting that you said that, you asked that question, John, and that Michael, you answered it that way. There's a media spot with Kyle Busch. They ask him if John Hunter Nemechek, should be back in Cup, because he was, and then he dropped down to trucks, and he's doing Xfinity this year. And the media guy asked Kyle, I think it was during his media thing after winning the race, if John Hunter, maybe it was before the race, should be back in Cup. And Kyle's answer was, if he has $6 million, sure.
That's my biggest argument with NASCAR is there's so many guys out there that have the talent that could make the sport better, the racing product better, but they just don't bring the money. That's why I think this TV deal and all the negotiations with the team, that's why it's so frustrating. You want the teams, it'll be better if the teams could get more of this money if they would put it back into it like they should, so they could go out and get the most talented race car drivers, not the guys with the money. There's too many guys out there right now that are running in this thing and have been running for years that are never competitive. They just have, family connections to money.
Exactly. And also, if you think about it, that would turn into a better product on TV because you'd have a more diverse group of drivers coming into the series more often. That's just like how Formula One is. You see a constant change of, purely, a lot of it is money in Formula One too, but you would have I wouldn't say a lot, you would have more turnover than we would, which would produce more drivers into the series and I think a better product.
It's not going to change unless they go back and get rid of charters. That's what, in my opinion, that's what brought all this on.
They'll never do that.
They still look for talent, but not in the same way. We've talked about this, not in the same way they did in the past. And until charters are gone, they don't really they just look for money. They don't look for charters. They don't look for
I don't think the charter system at this point is never going to go away. But if the teams could work out a deal with NASCAR and this TV deal to get a bigger cut of the pie, they wouldn't have to be so reliant on. They're always going to be reliant on sponsorship. Don't get me wrong, but they wouldn't have to get it all in one whack. It kills these guys. Josh Berry, for example, as talented as he is, he's never gotten a seat because he didn't have the money.
Well, maybe less charters, or maybe less charters per team. Is the limit 4? Because that's how many Hendrick has. That's how many Stewart Haas has. Maybe the limit should be 2 or 3, and we bring more people, more teams in, more people that if there's anybody that wants to be in. My first thought was, well, maybe we only need 20 charters instead of 35 or however many there are. That wouldn't work, but maybe less per team. I don't know, something.
Yeah, but if the teams were getting a bigger cut from NASCAR in the TV deal, then instead of the $50 million sponsorship they need to put a car on the track like Lowe's did with Jimmy Johnson all those years, they just needed $25 million. Then all of a sudden there's more opportunity to. I just feel like that would help rather than having to bring the Michael McDowells or the Paul Menards, like these guys that just, they're not going to cut it. They just come with money. That's the deal. It's all about money.
All right. This was an incident-filled event, not even off the track. Eric Jones, crew member, getting tangled up with another crew member, actually, and they wind up the collision sent him to the hospital. Everybody see that?
I never saw any clip of that or anything like that. I know on the Fox broadcast, they said that Austin Dillon ran over the guy, which turned out to be not true. It's kind of crazy to report that if you didn't see that happen, but I never saw exactly what happened.
Yeah,
I didn't either.
What I heard is that they ran headlong into each other, and one guy got the worst of it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not seeing a fan video. Obviously NASCAR has a video of it because they video pit road constantly. But I've not seen anything. I've not heard anything in the last day about how he might be.
So a lot of other difficulties on the track. A lot of cars and crews. I guess they lost communication up to the spotters. There was all kinds of communication issues there at. Unfortunately, the track is named the World Wide Technology Raceway, and there was not a lot of technology working this weekend. In fact, the broadcast truck lost connectivity because of a fiber cut. It was just a lot of technical glitches to get this race off.
Yeah, they had. I remember they were talking to some teams, and they said when the Wi-Fi went out, they had to go back to how they used to be up there in the pit box and write down analytics. They had a pen and pencil, or pen and paper rather, and had to take the notes manually. And so, definitely an odd race, just all around. It was, with the brake rotors, with the Wi-Fi, with just what was going on. Definitely an atypical race in NASCAR.
Yeah, to defend Corey a little bit, there's a blurb over his headset where he's apologizing for how he's running, and Gustafson, I think that's the crew chief. Correct me if I'm wrong, but he basically says back to him, I'm sorry, there's no way for me to help you. I got no info. I can't do anything.
Crazy. Well, the Cup Series heads to Sonoma Raceway for the Toyota Save Mart 350. That race was won last year by Daniel Suarez, right?
Yep, Daniel Suarez, and you saw Chris Buescher finish in second, Michael McDowell in third. I think it's going to be a strong race for RFK. I really do. I think you're going to see Brad K up there. You're going to see, obviously, Buescher up there. You're going to see that whole brigade, as well as I think you could see Martin Truex Jr. may get up in the mix.
Yeah, I look for Martin to be up there too. At a road course, you have to look at the 5 car and the 9 car too. Those two have always been really strong out of the Hendrick stables on the road course. So I look for those guys to be there. Yeah, Easton reminded me the Taco Pinata came out last year, so we'll see if we can't get that again.
Next segment, Clear, Not Clear, where we take a look at some incidents on track and give you our opinion as to whether we think that's a good thing or a bad thing. Clear, we're good. Not clear, not so much. So the first incident to kind of talk about was Austin Dillon claiming he got hooked by Austin Cindric.
Excuse me. I'm not clear on any of this. I did say in our little chat during the race that when this happened, it didn't look good for Austin Cindric. To me, it still really didn't look good, but I guess I don't care. I didn't think it was that big a deal, except that I think that's the one where it took the 47 car out, who was having a really good race. But now that I've seen all the information, it doesn't even look like Austin Cindric did anything. And all this whining all of a sudden that, oh, I got hooked, he needs to be suspended. I'm not clear on that crap, and it needs to go away real fast.
Yeah, I'm not clear on Austin Dillon accusing him of that. I mean, sitting in the race car at the time, I can understand your emotions are getting the best of you. You're pissed off. I get all that. I thought watching it on the broadcast, it looked like Austin Dillon kind of came down a little bit or came up a little bit into him. And I just, to me, it was a racing deal. I think the SMT data shows that there wasn't any kind of egregious action there. I just feel like it was a racing deal. I'm with you that the crying and the whining is a little bit ridiculous.
Yep, I'm going not clear as well. I saw it plain as day when it happened, and they showed that first replay. My first instinct was, Austin Dillon definitely came up, and then you saw the broadcast. Oh, he got hooked, and I'm like, we're not watching the same thing. And they're like, oh, he came down a little bit. Cindric came down, and I'm like, no, he didn't. I mean, like, why are we creating the drama? Why are we creating this? And then you have Austin Dillon going and saying, oh, he should be suspended and yada, yada, yada. And then you have, I don't know if y'all saw it, but Austin Cindric came out and posted the data on the Twitter, just like what Denny Hamlin did. So with these days, if you make those claims, be prepared to back it up. And I'm right there with you guys. Not clear.
Well, same here. I thought not clear as well. I thought Austin Dillon was just being a baby. All right.
So was Richard.
All right. Noah Gregson comments about the season, quote, it's been a tough year and, quote, counting down the days till the off season. Does no one know that the off season isn't until after November 5th?
Not clear. For all the things that Noah does off the racetrack, marketing-wise, marketing himself, his sponsors, his team, he does a really great job with all that. Somebody needs to send him to PR 101. Just probably the dumbest thing I've heard a driver say so far this year.
Yeah, I'm not clear on the comments too. I'm not so sure that he said that with a fully coherent head. That was right after that massive hit he took. He's had a rough year. There's no question about it. But you got a lot of guys on that pit road, a lot of guys and girls back in the shop that are busting their ass to put them on the racetrack. To make comments like that, I get it. He's frustrated, but you just can't say stuff like that.
Yep, not clear as well. I mean, it's his first full-time Cup season here in 2023. It's not going to be a breeze. I mean, you're going from dominating the Xfinity Series to getting in a subpar ride. So I'm not clear on it. It's kind of whiny.
Well, I think we're not hearing it as bad from Ty Gibbs, and as a rookie, and these are the only two rookies this year. Unfortunately, Noah, if you look at where he stands, I think he's last right now. But Ty is equally as frustrated. He's had some great opportunities, and things didn't go his way as well. But and he's expressed concerns, but he's kept it to himself. Whereas Noah's put some crazy things out there, so not clear. All right, Haley Deegan getting spun by Nick Sanchez. Somebody get Haley a break.
I think most of us anyway, I think we all want to see her succeed. And I know, not talking about the specific getting spun, the answer is not clear. Nick didn't just spin her, he basically ran over her. He came up, I don't know if it was turn 1 or turn 3, but they were both up in the second or third lane, and he was just faster than she was, and he generally is faster than she is. And I think as a driver that runs up front and then you don't have respect for other drivers for whatever reason, when you see them in front of you, you just react and you're like, I'm not gonna take a lap or a half a lap to pass this bozo. I'm just running them off the road, running over them. And that's what he did to her. So not clear on that part, but she just has to start claiming her stake on the racetrack a little more. And I guess putting other people in the wall. She's kind of a mid-pack runner right now. She's going to stay there if she keeps letting people wreck her.
Yeah, I'm not clear on that incident, and I'm right there with you. You touched on her. She's a mid-packer. She can clearly drive, and I'm with you. I'd like to see her do really well. I think it'll be really good for the sport for her to do well. But she has got to take command of that racetrack as well. She has been used up since she's been in there. Johnny Sauter used her up last year. Matt Crafton likes to use her up. Now these other guys are doing it too. She's not in as good of equipment this year as she was last year. And if she doesn't figure that part out and start sticking her elbows out there a little bit, the quality of equipment is just going to keep going down. And I don't want to see that. I think she's a good race car driver.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I mean, I would even put this on the lines of should there be any disciplinary action for Nick Sanchez, because you put it pure and simple there, Elliott. He just ran her over. I mean, it was he pushed her down basically about a third of the way down the backstretch and didn't lift and put her into the wall. And I'm not clear. She's got to do something and she's gotten better at it. But make herself known as, if you basically you're going to unleash a beast if you try to mess with me. And I think she's got to step into that a little bit more and say, hey, if this happens, if you do this to me, be prepared for something, and get her elbows out a little bit more. But yeah, totally not clear.
If I'm the truck owner, if I'm her truck owner, I'm just telling her right now, like, I'm giving you a truck. Destroy it if you have to. You have got to assert yourself out there. If you bring home a truck wadded up, so be it. But it better be you retaliating, not the other way around.
Well, I wonder if she's told the opposite. It makes me think of Corey LaJoie again. And he said many times, they just want to bring the car home because they don't have 4 or 5 more sitting at the shop. And so that on the racetrack, there's certain times when he's not as aggressive as he wants to be because, you know, he can make a mistake and maybe crash. And maybe she's told the same thing. I don't know. But what would be interesting to me, John, maybe she should go put a fist in somebody's face and then see what happens.
That would be the best marketing stunt of the year. That'd be better than Noah. I mean, why don't I say that's a great marketing stunt? Imagine the noise that if Haley Deegan just socked Matt Crafton in the face or Nick Sanchez in the face or somebody like that. Imagine the PR. That'd be great.
How many more fans would she get in an instant? Yep.
Oh, she would be the most popular driver for Infinity. I mean, it'd be amazing.
Well, I think what we're seeing on track between whether it's Deegan or Sanchez or anybody in the Truck Series is about the Truck Series. It is about bullies, and it's not just her. You know, that's just what the top 10 are doing. They're bullying their way back up and through, and it's become just the standard operating procedure for how to get a position in the Truck Series is just move them.
You're right, Rick, and going back to her putting a fist in somebody's face, maybe that'd be a way for her to get a better ride. I know that has nothing to do with on the racetrack, but she would gain so much PR, so many fans, and probably a sponsor out of it. Who knows? But
I think this is the last year you'll see Deegan in trucks. I think there's already a plan in place for her to move to Xfinity.
I hope it's a good ride when she gets one, or a better ride.
All right, we touched on it briefly earlier. Chandler Smith versus Jeb Burton.
Well, this is, again, 2 or 3-fold to me. One, I think Jeb is in the right with what happened on the racetrack probably. Chandler pretty much took him out in the closing laps.
Yep.
And I don't have an issue with a driver, you know, going to confront somebody afterwards. That's just what you have to do, or they'll keep running over you. Now, they did get in some type of scuffle, and Jeb wanted to say he was the tough guy after that. So I'm clear on Jeb confronting Chandler, not clear on his tough guy status afterwards because his punch pretty much missed.
Yeah, I want to say I'm not clear on the way Chandler drove there at the end. I don't know what happened. There may have been something that happened to lead up to that. But that was just, I realized it's the end of the race, but I just thought that was pretty dirty racing. Kind of like what I did to John at the Roval a few years ago, if you ask me.
You still got payback coming, buddy. Don't think I've let that get out of my mind.
Believe me, I know.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of The Highline, brought to you by the IWM Racing Network. I want to thank you for tuning in, and also tune in tonight, if you can, for the Tech4Troops series. We head to, well, where we just were, the World Wide Technology Raceway. We've got the Gateway 180 at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. You can find that live on the IWM Broadcast Network on YouTube at youtube.com/IWM Broadcast Network. And there you have it, guys. Great show. Good to just talk with y'all and catch up on this week.
Absolutely. And by the way, I am not clear on Chandler Smith and Jeb Burton, by the way. I'm totally not clear about what Chandler Smith did. I mean, ran him over 3 times. So that's my last parting word.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and as Rick said, going to World Wide Technology Raceway and the Tech4Troops Cup Series, this will be the first time the series has been there. So hopefully we put on a good show.
Looking forward to it. All right, guys. Have a great day. Good night, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye-bye, everybody.